You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, 23rd of November. Boston, Lincolnshire, has had to ask for financial help. Communist paper contradicts the fact of 12,000 jobs per month go to immigrants. Greek central bank gives Greece one more chance for Eurozone. Asylum seekers sew their lips together in Australia. UK news. The town of Boston in Lincolnshire has had to beg the coalition government for more money to support the flood of immigrants the town and surrounding area has to put up with. The immigrants who are pouring in daily to Britain are flooding the housing lists, the NHS, education systems, benefit systems, and taking British jobs from British workers. One local resident described one area of the town as lost to the third world. A Conservative MP said he wanted to talk to migrant worker leaders to bring everyone together, but this ridiculous quote hasn't impressed anyone. A Labour councillor in the area signed a letter to get more money to help the immigrants. One British National Party spokesperson said, "Typical of Labour, give to the immigrants and yet let our pensioners freeze and die in their tens of thousands this winter." The communist rag paper called The Socialist Worker reports against the fact that 12,000 jobs per month are going to foreign labour. This cheap Marxist anti-British rag remarked on comments made on the front page of the Daily Express paper this week. The failed left-wingers who ran the story are trying to brainwash the ordinary working-class public into believing that the figures of 9 out of 10 jobs that were going to migrants to be untrue. A nationalist spokesperson has said, "Only left-wing students and union people buy the Socialist Worker newspaper. The British public are not interested in socialism in Britain. Socialism tried and failed. Like all communism, it is brutal and nobody will ever want it here." The socialists tried to jump on the bandwagon of the race riots in Britain this summer and revelled in the chance to cause more trouble. They were obviously against our own people when they joined forces with those others in attacking hard-working people's businesses that they had worked hard to build. A left-wing website, which approves multiculturalism, has written a report saying yes to 70 million. The website, called The Platform, attacks British people's rights to keep their culture as the only culture in Britain. It opposes the e-petition to No to 70 million and is one of the most dangerous new left-wing propaganda sites on the internet. The site also promotes Muslim culture but doesn't have a page for British culture. The site is promoting the brainwashing of people in the sewage of the so-called diversity myth. Euronews. France's President Nicolas Sarkozy is said to be warming to the idea of a treaty change that Germany has put forward to allow the EU to control how much money a country uses in its own national budgets. Germany and France are set to propose this treaty change in the European Parliament. The Greek central bank says it is giving Greece once more chance to stay in the Eurozone. The Greek people who have had enough of the Eurozone were protesting again today. The Greek bank has tried to use phrases to its people saying it will set Greece back decades, but the Greek people are still protesting. The country's labour unions are pushing the new Greek Prime Minister, Lucas Papademos, for more austerity. The new Prime Minister has been trying new reforms to keep Greece afloat in the ever-worsening crisis in the Eurozone. World news. 3 asylum seekers trying to get into Australia have sewn their lips together. This is one of the latest stunts into making Australia look bad to the rest of the world. It was also to protest about their lengthy detention in the country. There were 2 other cases of asylum seekers taking overdoses. All 5 of these gentlemen are from Kurdistan. The 2 that had deliberately overdosed were taken to hospital at the expense of the Australian taxpayer. They all arrived in Australia with no skills whatsoever. The Kurdish 5 were refused entry to Australia, but left-wing do-gooders tried to twist it so they could stay in the detention centre in Darwin. These men and thousands more are Shia Muslims and have cornered a loophole in the law called stateless because of Iraq's ruling against Kurds being Iraqi. Australian nationalists have said letting these Kurds into their country with this loophole could open the floodgates to tens of thousands of Kurds in the future. More trouble in Egypt's Tahrir Square erupted again today as protesters got a surprise after they hurled rocks and stones at the police. The police picked them up and hurled them back. The protest is over the top general refusing to lay down power after the revolution in the country. The general promised he would return rule to the civilians in the new year. Port Alexandra saw a fatality when security forces opened fire. About 8 cities in Egypt have protesters. Civilian cabinet of Prime Minister S.M. Sharaf resigned on Tuesday. Protesters are said to have commented that they will not leave Tahrir Square until the military steps down. The military council has banned any Egyptian from standing in the elections that has a history of any corruption. And finally, a monkey in a tree gave officers a run for their money and evaded capture for more than 6 hours, eyewitnesses reported. The residents tried to get the monkey to climb down from the tree with bread and fruit. Still not budging, the experts were called in from the zoo nearly 2 hours' drive away where it had escaped from. The zookeepers fired tranquilizer darts at the monkey and it soon became dizzy and fell out of the tree. But before they could reach the animal, it jumped up and made a mad dash, sending residents young and old running. It jumped over police vehicles and made its way across the street and made good his escape. Residents and police are still on the lookout for the escaped monkey. This story is from the Palm Coast Resort near Daytona in Florida. Thought for the day. Christmas is coming, isn't it? TV soaps are stressing it is too early, whilst adverts are merely saying Christmas need not come at all really, just as long as we advertise obscene amounts of food, drink and consumables, usually very expensive even in these rather stressed financial times, well, at least if you're not a banker, that is. My thoughts, well, let us say they dwell on the wholly political correct Euro message of Christmas, or shall I say festival of lights, winter celebrations, Eid, Diwali, anything that really does not conjure up the traditional English picture of the nativity and the family and unity. What is it with our shops, offices and streets around this time when we should be seen to be celebrating the only really universal celebration of Christmas? Well, allowing for the fact that Jesus might have been born in January or February, the fact that we also have merged the Germanic idea of trees and St. Nicholas, we also nowadays have to fight the health and safety fascists, the multicultural and religious bullies in councils and government, a huge anti-Christian movement within the country and a general hate of anything traditional, European or Christian. Our local schools cavort like maniacs trying to spread the word of alien religions and cultures to our children. So is it any wonder the poor little things are muddled as to the real meaning of Christmas? Their parents were the first to have their eyes open to the wonderful process of multiculturalism and diversity, so little help there, I'm afraid to say. Our local Tesco, which I know is owned by a person of the Jewish faith, does sport the smallest Christmas tree I've ever seen in a large shop, with of course no sign of a nativity. In fact, I have not seen any sign of the nativity in shops or on TV at all, so far. You would think that this last bastion of hope for Christianity would be evident this time of the year, but no. I watched Storm Over the Nile, a very old film based on the Four Feathers book by A.E.W. Mason, in which old traditional England was there, in all its boasting, biased and racist glory, to die for one's country, etc. James Robertson Justice, who plays a bucolic old colonel, says to his son, "There is no place for cowards in England." My husband quietly said, "Well, we have a whole country full of them now," and I'm afraid I have to agree. Members of our party are not cowards, whatever else is thrown at them. But England and the last 2 generations? I have my doubts as we appear to be sinking ever deeply into the multicultural, socially engineered hell structured just for us. Political correctness is a form of cowardice. People are different. Vive la différence. But do not let it erase our culture or religion. Bring out the nativity scenes, bring out the holly, bring out the lights, and bring on the crosses for all to see. If certain people do not like it, go home. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar, and I wish you all a very good night.
The World at 8, the #1 in nationalist news.